So my wife, I said, well, what are you doing? She said, I'm crying and I'm packing. Now, unbeknownst, we
Ooh.
had not even talked. I
Whoa.
had not even.
Woo.
Whenever God truly wants you to do something, He will always send confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Grass always looks greener
Yes, yes,
on the other side to only find out it was astroturf.
yes,
Or
yes.
as my dad said, a green light was shining on some brown grass.
Ooh. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. While I was in the area, I could not deny myself the privilege of visiting, stopping in on the one and only Dr. Terry Mackey of the Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church. Let's hear from the other side. Doctor,
Hey, doctor.
how are you, sir?
I'm incredible.
I believe that. I
I'm
believe
doing
that. As
well.
I drove up and I saw the great blessing that was
Yes.
handed on to you, and I don't mean just the building, though that is important.
Yes, it is.
That is important. I do mean just the fact that it looks like you are well.
Yes, the Lord has certainly been kind. And as I said, when they first invited me to this church, I was not even being considered as a candidate for
Really.
pastor. Yes, when they invited me, it was love at first sight, and now it has become a marriage made in heaven. So
Such
praise
preacher
God.
language. Okay, so let me get the first few moments for those who may not know your full story. I
Sure.
met you the first time, it was probably about 12, 13 years ago
Yes.
at the Great Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, shout out. You had just completed an internship and you were working as the youth pastor
Yes.
at the time. So give us the 30-second, maybe 90-second synopsis of how you got to Wheeler, who you met at Wheeler,
Right.
wink, wink. What has happened since that time with having you here in Arizona?
Sure. I was an intern at Wheeler in 2016,
Okay.
completing my master's at Princeton University. And after completing my internship, Dr. Cosby gave the offer for me to come and be the youth and young adult pastor. Worked at Wheeler for 4 years. After that, became the senior pastor of Riceville Mount Olive Baptist Church. Rewind, press play.
Yeah, I know
Let
you.
me go
I knew
back.
you were gonna go.
While I was at Wheeler, I met my lovely wife of almost 15 years, Lynn F.
Wow.
Mackey. We have three children now: Micah Martin Mackey, who is 12, Timothy Maxwell Mackey, who is 8, and Barbara Ann Yvette Mackey, who is 6. Served at Riceville Mount Olive for 8 years, and then the Lord called us here to Pilgrim Rest in Phoenix.
Now, I know because you just told me that you weren't looking or
Right.
seeking to come here. I've got to know what made you say, yes, I'm going to leave Houston and go to the desert.
Well, I think um, I had to make sure it was not a good move, but a God
Yes,
move,
yes, yes.
because things Dr. B had just started to really fall into my hands at Riceville.
Really?
One of my mentors, Dr. Bartholomew Orr, Brown Baptist in South Haven, Mississippi, leading one of the larger churches in the Mid South area,
Hmm.
says that he's been in his church 30 plus years. He said it's always something about after you've reached your seventh year that God gives you another
Yes.
layer of favor. And I had just come into my seventh year. The ministry was finally growing. My music ministry was finally where I
Hmm.
wanted to be. I just hired Chester Baldwin
I
not too
remember
long, but
that.
yeah, before that,
Hey, Chester.
because he came from Wheeler.
Yes.
So I mean, we were about to build a family life center. We had just secured the funding. Everything was right
Pieces just
where
coming
it
together.
needed to
Yeah.
be. But I was walking into my 8th year,
Uh-huh.
and we know 8 means
New
new
beginnings
beginnings. So I thought I was just going to experience a renaissance of some kind
in that
at
place.
at Riceville, but the Lord was leading me to a different place here in ministry. And here's what I'll say in a brief, abbreviated form. Whenever God truly wants you to do something, He will always send confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
He will send that thing repeatedly so
Mm-hmm.
you know. Because as you know, it's a lot of pastors who've looked at other pastures,
Yes.
and the grass always looks greener
Yes, yes,
on the other side, to only find out it was astroturf.
yes,
Or as
yes.
my dad said, a green light was shining on some brown grass.
Oh,
So I had to make sure. And plus, my wife
I know,
had
I know.
never gone out of the Houston area. I've been moving all of my
Right,
life,
right.
so it was nothing for me to
Uh-huh.
pack my bag.
But she had to literally uproot,
She
like
had to
pull
uproot.
up. Uh-huh.
And my mother-in-law, when we were installed at Ricefield, said, "Please, son, promise me that you're not going to take my baby girl away, and you're not going to
Ooh.
take my grandchildren away." And my baby girl Barbara is named
After
after my
her. Uh-huh.
mother-in-law, and certainly has a lot of her mannerisms. So she was like, "Please don't take them."
Wow. She made you promise. She
No, she
literally
tried
she
to,
tried.
but
Okay,
I
you
said,
didn't. Okay.
Mama, I can't do
I
that.
know.
It's up to the Lord as to what we do. So um, it was a very, I had to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that it was the right move
Mm-hmm.
for our family. And I must say that being here lets me know that I'm definitely in the will of God. I'll tell you one more fascinating
Okay.
story of confirmation of
Okay.
how we knew we were supposed to come here. My wife sent me a bio of the previous pastor,
Okay.
Bishop Alexis Andrew
Okay.
Thomas. And she had all these red lines in the bio she wanted me to look at.
Uh-huh.
And unbeknownst to me, all of our children's names are in his bio.
What?
Yes.
Micah?
Micah,
Uh-huh.
he has a son named Micah as well.
Wow.
Timothy was his brother's name.
Oh.
Barbara was his mom's name. And to take it a step further, his mom's name was Barbara Thomas. That's my mother-in-law's name, Barbara Thomas. And we named our baby girl Barbara after my mother-in-law.
Wow.
So my wife, I said, "Well, what are you doing?" She said, "I'm crying and I'm packing." Now, unbeknownst, we
Ooh.
had not even talked. I
Whoa.
had not even
Woo.
submitted a resume.
Woo.
She said, "I am crying and I'm packing."
Woo.
Because we had just moved. We had just moved. Sister Mackey had just found the house of our dreams in Houston. We had just moved she wanted a house from the ground up. We found it, got the lot of land. We
Right,
finally
right.
got our house. We weren't in that house a year. And the
Wow.
Lord said, "Surprise!" You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So I love these stories. I
Yeah.
love how God puts the pieces together, and I love what your wife said. I'm crying and I'm packing.
Crying and unpacking.
Wow.
and
Crying and packing.
and that's a lot of preaching in there. You
Oh, I
already
know. That's why I had to come back to it. That's why it hit me, and then I had to come back to it. You don't run past that crying and packing.
I'm
That is
crying
a
and unpacking.
that is an intense moment. That is a pivot. That is a life shift, and we have to be real about the emotions we feel.
Yes.
We're human, so we have to be honest about the attachments and the adjustments. But packing is such a move of faith and a
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ooh, this is
And
good.
for us not, and then when I was interviewing, and one of the persons from the search committee just happened to see all these boxes behind me in the background. He said, "Pastor Mac, I've got to ask, what are the boxes for?" I said, "Because I told you all, we already know that this is the move of God. This is just a matter
Wow.
of this is a matter
The
of
formalities. Yeah.
formalities.
Yeah.
We just got to get through this." And they found that to be an incredible
Absolutely.
move of faith, that we had already pretty much boxed our house before the move. They had actually sent the movers to gather us.
So I need us to hover around here because this is the kind of stuff. Let me tell you why this is important because I share in another space on
Right.
this Intensified Life TV about one of the biggest, the first big step of faith that I made in my life was to move to Virginia
Okay.
when I did not have the scholarship. I did not know exactly how things were going to fall in line, but I believed God sent me. There was time. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until like a year later that I got the scholarship. But it reminds me of how we have to act on what we know.
Yes.
And I know we have to move regardless of how things come together in the way we think they should naturally, because it's illogical to some people. How are you packing up and moving for a place and they haven't even finished the process? So many of us play it safe.
Yes. Yes.
And if we listen to certain counsel, and they mean us well, but they would say, well, just hold on a minute, or don't count your chickens before they hatch,
Exactly.
all of that. But
Hmm.
for you to enter into that space, tell me about what that was doing for your faith. Tell me about how that was being shaping you, and what was going on.
Ever since I started preaching at 13. So
Could you write cursive yet? Could you?
probably not,
Could
and it
you?
wasn't good if it did. So
Wow.
I've always tried to keep my ear tuned to
Yes.
God's voice
Yes.
as He was leading me uh, ever since 13 years of age.
Wow.
And one of the things you said that has encouraged me in my ministry is sometimes you have to do it
Oh
afraid.
yes.
And I
Yes.
mean, think of the
Yes.
fear
Yes. Yes.
of
Yes.
uprooting your
Yes.
family and just moving as the church of old used to sing that song. I love the Lord; He heard my cry,
Uh-huh.
pitied
That's
every
one of
long
my
as I
favorites.
live. My
Woo.
troubled eyes,
I
I
hate.
hasten to. I wait until the Spirit comes and move
Mm.
at God's command. So that stanza has always
Mm-hmm.
resonated with me to move at God's command because so many of us are playing hide and seek. God wants us to play Simon Says.
Right. Right. Right.
You
Right.
Simon Says you can't move
Yes.
until
Yes.
Simon says move.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I've always tried to make sure I've done that. And then there's another little phrase that has always meant something to me. It's where God leads, He feeds.
Yes.
Where God directs, He protects.
Yes.
And where He
Guides.
guides,
He
He provides.
provides.
You
I
know it.
know it very
You know
well.
it.
I
So
know it
so I've
very well.
always It has always stuck with me to know that if God is really leading me, uh, and we know what it means to talk about the providence of
Yes.
God, that God has already moved ahead of
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
to make sure things are
Mm-hmm.
in place, that although you can't see it,
Right.
God sees it. And I guess for us, when we moved here, we had no family
I
here,
know.
um, no house. We didn't know how things were going to fall in place. But as another saying says, a lot of time when it looks like things are falling apart, they are falling in
Yes.
place.
With all of that being said, I want to know right now,
Okay.
because this is Intensified Life TV, and you've already shared with me a lot that is really intense. Just the walk of faith you've had since 13.
Yes.
But I want to go back to that because I want to tap into, how does a 13-year-old learn to hear God? In the way that you talked about. Now you're past 13 now, so
Yes.
you have some years behind you. But when you're first learning, and there might be someone who is asking that very question as a teenager, or even as a grown person who maybe is new in the faith or just getting serious about the faith.
Okay.
How do you learn to really hear God in a way that gives you the kind of confidence to start packing before you have the official offer letter? You know what I
Sure.
mean? Give me
Sure.
like your first top three words of exhortation or instruction.
I'll go back to what I stated earlier, that when God is speaking to you, He will send
Confirm. Right.
confirmation. And sometimes that confirmation comes through people.
Okay.
Sometimes it comes through the reading of the word.
Absolutely.
There have been many times where, God, as we know, God will send a rhema word.
Yes.
And just what I needed to hear propelled me in
Yes.
my purpose.
Yes.
So I would say through the reading of the word,
Mm-hmm.
God sending people. I mean, I remember, Doc, I remember I was walking in the mall one day. I may
I
have
love
been
it. I love it.
11 years
I
old,
love it.
and a person out of the
I
blue
love it.
comes up to me and said, "Young man, I don't know who you are, but you have to preach God's word."
Wow.
I was 11 years old
Wow.
in the
In
mall.
the mall. Just being in the mall. Being a kid in the
Mall,
mall.
right? I think I was trying to find some new shoes or something, but God put
Wow.
me on a collision course
Mm-hmm.
with my purpose in the
Mm-hmm.
mall. And then after that, I think for me, the most comforting of the confirmations were the multiplicity of visions.
I knew you were gonna say that V word. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Oh, I knew it.
It's serious, and to let you know it wasn't just something you ate
Right,
last
right, right.
night, or you just not having a nightmare. God will
Yes.
continue to keep showing the dreams. It got to the point
My
where
God.
My mom and dad could. My bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
we lived in a small house, so my bedroom was right here. We slept in bunk beds, me and
Uh-huh.
my
Uh-huh.
me and my other brother, and so I was on the top bunk, and my mom and dad's room was right adjacent to our room. So sometimes they could hear me in my sleep saying, "Yes,
Wow.
Lord, yes, Lord,
Wow.
yes, Lord," tossing and turning at night,
Wow.
um, because I mean, even how I got to Wheeler, it was through a
Yes.
vision.
Yes.
I was being considered for 2 or 3 churches in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, Lord, I want to make the best decision because if you're preaching, a lot of times you want a pastor, and I'm like, this is my opportunity. I
Mm-hmm.
just got my master's from Princeton. I'm
Mm-hmm.
ready. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to pastor, only to find out that I had to go to,
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't get the training at Wheeler, I would not, to be able to manage a church like this, I would not have been able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, although it looked as if it was a setback,
Yep.
it was
Set
actually
up.
God training me in
Mm-hmm.
that season
Yep.
for this season of my
Absolutely.
life. So I would just say succinctly that God will send visions,
Mm-hmm.
He will send His word,
Yep.
and He will use other people. And then sometimes he just will use certain circumstances of
Yes.
life.
Yes.
There have been many times I was struggling with some, even when I'm thinking about what to preach at different
Uh-huh.
churches, God will always send confirmation. I may be watching a television
Right.
program. It's something someone said.
Right.
It's something I saw. So
Billboard.
right, right. And,
Uh-huh.
and so God will use these ordinary experiences of life to do the
Yes.
extraordinary,
Yes.
to
Yes.
give
Yes.
you that rhema word that you need.
I love
So
it.
so I would just encourage whomever's watching that always be attuned to just the regular
Mm-hmm.
mundane circumstances, because God can use those ordinary things
Mm-hmm.
to show you an extraordinary
Extraordinary
message.
and divine direction.
Yes, He
So
will.
now you are here, you are doing well, you are loving it. I
Yeah,
am I am full on what you've already shared because I want more people to understand that walk with God, and it
yeah.
can happen early in your life.
Early.
So don't ever ever despise your youth or
Mm-hmm.
small beginnings,
That's right.
because that is important as a foundation even for where you are going. You have a lot to juggle.
Yes.
I am glad that you do so with a smile. You've always been a gregarious person and laugh and
Sure.
talk about, but I appreciate what we've been able to unlock in this session because we've never had this much time for a one-on-one as long as we've known each other
Right.
to
Right.
have this conversation, and you share from that intimate space with your walk in as early as what 11 years old. That's amazing to me.
Yes.
And
Got
then
saved at 7
wow.
years old, and I really, really start going hard. I would say probably about 10.
Uh-huh. And what tell we're about to close, but I want you to
And
tell me what is
it's a
that
Baptist
going
close or a
hard?
real close.
Okay.
Baptist close at least
Um
3 times.
such a preacher. Let's I don't know what you call in between.
Okay. Okay.
Because I want to respect your time in your day,
Sure.
but
Sure. Sure.
listen, I want to know, and that's again, you hit on something that is a part of this intensified life thing. What is it about when I say going hard? That's mean I shifted the gears on this.
Yeah.
I
Right.
intensified. There was something. Was there something that happened in your life? Was there just an internal sense and calling of the spirit that I've got to kind of move in this direction? Because you're still young.
Mm-hmm.
You're still
Mm-hmm.
very young at 10 years old. Most kids are playing outside and they're not trying to think about going hard after God. But
Right.
what shifted the gears for you and intensified? Go hard. What made that difference?
Well, prior to me becoming a preacher, I was known as the, I guess, songbird of the South.
Oh, okay.
I used to do a lot of singing.
Oh, okay.
Come from a singing family, and so my first solo was probably when I was 8 or 9,
Oh,
and my mom taught me that song. I'm gonna try not to cry.
it's okay. We have
Um,
tissue.
she First song she taught me was a song called "I've Got a Mind to Live for Jesus
Mm-hmm.
All of My Days." Old song.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the song says, the first verse says, "Mountains get high as I live for Jesus. Valleys get low as I live for Jesus. My way gets hard as I live for Jesus all of my days. but the Lord has been so good to me. I like the way He set me free because I've got a mind to live for Jesus all of my days. I did
Sing the
not
verse.
know.
Sing. Yep.
I've got a mind to live for Jesus all of my days. I've got a mind to live for Jesus all of my days. Oh, yes, I know in order to win this fight, I've got to give God all of my life because I've got a mind to live for Jesus all of my days. See, it just keeps going.
Amen.
So one of them good Southern songs.
Yeah, I can hear them in the
Yeah,
back.
right. So I didn't know from that song
Yeah.
that my mom was planting.
Yes, I could tell. Mm-hmm.
She was planting those seeds on the inside of
Yes,
me.
yes.
My grandmother heard me sing. I think I was outside and I was singing something, and she just happened to hear me, and she told my mom, "Don, you need to let that boy sing."
Wow.
And so I forget what the occasion was, but my mom took me. She went over the song with me, showed me how to sing it, the rises and falls, and from singing those songs, I began to. Those songs were starting
Yes.
to plant with me. It was taking away my fear of standing
Yes,
before
yes,
people,
yes.
also giving a message, although it
Yes,
being through song.
absolutely.
So all of those things, as I said, God was training me in one season
Mm-hmm.
for the next season.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember it was a vacation Bible school. They were talking about what it truly means to be saved.
Wow.
And when that fire started to be lit in me, even as a young man, what it means to be saved, I've got to live a holy life. I've got to show Jesus Christ in the way that I live to others. Coupled with that song, I've got a mind to live for Jesus.
Yes.
It just set an inferno
Absolutely.
within me, and then we started really going to Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
I had the burning, but I didn't have
Have
the
the
learning.
learning. Right.
When I started going to Sunday school and I'm studying, and my teacher wanted us to memorize the memory verse,
Yes.
I was planting that word in my heart. When that learning and burning came together, God was preparing me,
Absolutely.
even as a young man, to preach His word.
And I will pause to give tribute and honor to your mother
Oh
and your
yes.
parents. But
Mm-hmm.
for those who are planting seeds, and whether they know it intentionally or not,
Yeah.
exposing your children to the right things is
Yeah.
important.
Yes, it is.
Placing them in environments where they can add fuel to that fire and
That's
get
right.
the learning with the burning is so important. Who
Yes,
knows
it
what
is.
God has for them way out yonder? But when the time of to intensify comes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they
And it
have
will.
what they need, and it will,
It
right? They
will come.
have what they need. I know
My
that there will
joy.
be plenty of other ways and many other things that I'll
Mm-hmm.
get to observe from afar, but I'm looking forward to seeing how God does even more
Of
with your
course.
ministry. I am grateful for having the opportunity to be here. And let
Yes.
me say to all of you who are watching, this will, of course, not be the last time you hear of Dr. Terry
Oh,
Mackey. And
bless you.
of course, we're going to make sure we get Sister Lynn, soon to be within the next year, Reverend Lynn.
Yes.
We're going to make sure we get you in the intensified seat so that you can share your journey. But until the next time, I hope that this has blessed you. I know it has inspired and blessed me. And I want all of you to take something, not just to remember, but literally to live on, to intensify your own walk. He's given us some gems, some jewels, some rich things. And no matter what stage or age you are in your life, God has a special purpose and design for you to be intentional and intense about God's purposes for your life. I'm signing off for now, and I'm in Phoenix, and I'll be back. This is Intensified Life TV with Dr. Lakeisha B. Hold on. Wait. Okay. So we good?
We good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good.
See, just float.
I know. We didn't even coordinate this blue. I should have brought this up on there. Okay. Is it off? Okay. Yeah, that's good.